gym badges. We all want them, preferably 8, but how often do you look back at the ones you've gathered? DS games excluded, because I used to conduct entire symphonies on those babies, I've rarely ever looked back at the badges I have, and in the first few generations, they weren't even always given their little moment when being handed out. So, as I started looking deeper into them for this video, not only did I find interesting tidbits I'd never known, but I also came across badge designs that felt only vaguely familiar, despite me having collected them a million times. But at least I am now fully qualified to tell you all there is to know about gym badges in Pokémon. Let's dive in. We begin in Kanto with easily the most iconic set of badges. If you were a fan during Pokemania, I'm sure you've seen these countless times, and even for the many of you that joined later, I suspect these designs will be familiar. Being that this is the first generation, the designs are kept simple here. You've got your water drop for Misty, your flame for Blaine, etc. The one that always stood out to me was Giovanni's Earth badge. Now, this is supposed to be a tree, but it always looked more like a feather to me. And what definitely doesn't help is that some depictions of this badge actually redesigned it in a bizarre way to indeed resemble a feather instead of a tree, like in the anime, although this isn't used too often anymore these days. That said, both are weird picks for a badge for not only a ground type gym, but also the leader of Team Rocket. But there's actually a pretty clear explanation for this. The tree depicted here is a Sakaki, which is the Japanese name of Giovanni. Speaking of Japanese, in the original language of the game, all Kanto badges have a colored name, meaning the Earth badge is actually called the Green badge there. These colors match the shade mentioned in the town or city's name. Cinnabar is a shade of red, Pewter a shade of grey, etc. Now, admittedly, I'd say Vermilion is a shade of red and Orange is pushing it, but I'll allow it. There is, however, one true exception. Celadon is a shade of green and not a word for a rainbow, like the badge is called. However, in Japanese, the city's name does not refer to green whatsoever. Instead, it's called Tamamushi City, with a Tamamushi being a jewel beetle, a rainbow-colored insect, meaning it all ties up nicely again. Also know that the rainbow on this badge contains all other badge colors. Another thing I feel we should definitely point out when discussing the Kanto badges is how we may be looking at a case of switch names here. I don't know about you, but if I had to guess whether the Marsh badge was Psychic or Poison, I know which one I would pick, and it's not the one that ended up used. The Soul badge feels less linked directly to Psychic, but it still fits that a lot more than Poison. Do keep in mind though, a possible name switch only affects the English names, as the Japanese names correspond to the colors, which match the cities. We move on to Johto, where badge designs really started to ramp up. While there are still a few dull ones like the Mineral badge or the intentionally boring Plain badge, this region also has some of my favorites like the Hive badge and the Rising badge, the latter of which was at the time the first badge to have the same name in English as in Japanese. This would later become the standard, but the Rising badge did it first. It's also still the only badge that is handed out outside of the leader's gym, by the way. It does make you wonder though why they changed certain names. The Hive badge is called Insect badge in Japanese, which fits the design much better since ladybugs, which the design is based on, do not live in hives. Similarly, the Fog badge, a name that is only vaguely reminiscent of Ghost, is called the Phantom badge in Japanese. One that actually got upgraded though is Falkner's badge. This was originally simply called the Wing badge, befitting of its design, but we have come to know this as the Zephyr badge, named after the Greek god of the west wind, which is way cooler. One badge whose name is puzzling in both languages is Chucks. He's a fighting specialist, his badge is a fist, and yet it's called the Shock badge in Japanese and the Storm badge in English, which both sound like they fit other types much better. There's also Price's Glacier badge, which has set off a weird trend of naming conflicts, which has continued all the way from Gold and Silver to Sword and Shield even. Okay, so we begin with the Glacier badge, which is called the Ice badge in Japan. Later, in Gen 4, we meet Candice, whose Icicle badge is called Glacier badge in Japanese. And then we get to Bryson, whose Freeze badge is called Icicle badge in Japanese. And then finally, the circle is made complete by Sword and Shield, where Melanie's badge is called the Ice badge in English, which matches the Glacier's badge Japanese name. Crazy coincidences, cause I doubt that was planned. Next up is Hoenn, which is actually a tad disappointing design wise as far as I'm concerned. Too many of these badges resemble ones we've seen before. The Stone badge is a more elaborate boulder badge, the Knuckle badge is another fist like the Storm badge, the Heat badge is just a different flame than the Volcano badge, which is similar to the Feather badge, just being a different wing than the Sapphire badge. The Mind badge is a heart just like the Soul badge, and the Rain badge is 3 Cascade badges stuck together. So yeah, not very exciting. This is also the first generation where every name is identical between English and Japanese, as well as the final one where stat boosts are applied after obtaining a badge. Yeah, this is really a forgotten part of badges, but in the first 3 gens, obtaining different badges boost your Pokémon stats. For example, the first badges, Boulder, Sapphire and Stone, all boost your Pokémon's attack. This was ditched by Generation 4 and also didn't reappear in any remakes past Fire Red and Leaf Green. We continue on towards Sinnoh, where badges may no longer strengthen your Pokémon, but they can be cleaned and played like a piano, which is also worth something. Design-wise, I would say this bunch is one of the best of the series, and I especially like how the designs tie into the locations or themes of the gyms. The first badge, the Coal badge, doesn't just resemble a boulder and a Pokeball, it's also designed to look like Roar's Hardhead. You've also got the Forest badge for Eterna City, which is an obvious nod to Eterna Forest, and the Fen badge of Astoria City, which resembles Crasher Wake's mask. Another super recognizable one is the Beacon badge, which is based on the lighthouse of Sunyshore City. In Unova, designs take another step back. While the inspirations remain cool and some keep tying into the themes of the gym, they all have a very slim design, to the point where it makes the vision behind the designs much more difficult to recognize. Take for example Lenora's basic badge. I always thought this was just a basic rectangle, similar to the plain badge of Goldenrod City, but it's actually supposed to be the spine of a book, seeing as her gym is a library. It's kept in a sequel and is now handed out by Charon, who of course runs a school, where a book design is also fitting. Another cool one is Clay's Quake badge. If you've paid attention in geography class, you'll know earthquakes are created when 2 tectonic plates meet in a similar fashion to what's depicted in this badge's design. Once again though, because it's so slim, I never realized that was the intention here. Thankfully, in Kalos, badges come in all shapes and sizes again. While the designs are not super inspired for this region, I do think these games have some of the best basic badges out there. The Beetle of the Bug badge looks great, the Rumble badge is the coolest fist badge in the series, and the Iceberg badge combines the familiar themes of Snowflake and Icy Mountain together very nicely. The only badge to reference the gym's theme is the Cliff badge, which resembles a rock climbing wall. While this set of badges is still pretty nice I'd say, it does show the first signs of what's to come next. True demise of gym badges. And I don't mean Generation 7, which doesn't have gym badges to begin with. I'm talking about the 2 regions on Switch, Galar and Paldea. While Kalos had some basic designs and some basic names like the Psychic, Bug and Fairy badge, all gym badges in Galar and Paldea have extremely basic designs and their names are simply the name of their type. It's such a shame and I really don't understand why. Was there a connection between the badge names and unlocking HMs that we've never realized? Because that's all that's really changed. These boring names also mean we've now had a total of 3 different fairy badges back to back to back, with Psychic and Bug only dodging that because they have no gym in Galar. It's a tragedy honestly what has happened with these little trinkets on the Switch. If I must point out one positive thing about the implementation in Sword and Shield though, I do want to say I like the way these pieces combine together to form one large medallion that depicts the logo of the gym challenge. They suck individually, but that is a nice touch. For Paldea though, I truly have no compliments to give. With maybe 18 badges, they all suck. All have their generic type logo on it, so nothing original there, and while there could have been clear differences between the 3 sets of badges, that's not really the case. How it works in Paldea is that there's a set of 8 official gym badges, then another 5 star badges that are used by Team Star, and then another set of 5 badges that Arven custom made to remember your adventure together. Now, all props to our man Arven, but what the hell is the Pokemon League doing with their badge design when one student can just easily make 5 badges that resemble the official ones down to a few color differences? That sounds like a scandal in the making. And while that is all core series badges, I do want to show you guys a set of badges hailing from Pokémon Masters. If you don't play this game, there's a big chance you've never seen them, so here's your chance. We have the Tranquility badge first, handed out by Erica, which has ironically enough a pretty busy design. It's nice though. Next is Skyla's Freedom badge, which resembles Feather, just like her actual one, the Jet badge. Then there's the Patience badge for Norman, which may seem like another basic rectangle design, but it's actually a tatami door, as found in his gym. Bryce's badge is the fairly standard yet pretty Harmony badge. And finally we have the only badge ever given out by an Alolan character, Hapu's Pride badge. It's one of my favorites in the whole series, and references the volcanoes on Pony Island, where Hapu is from. And that's all of them, for now. Let's hope the next generations give us our unique badges and names back, right? Which is your favorite? And which one did you dislike? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, please consider giving it a like and subscribing to the channel to stay updated on all my future Pokemon content coming up. For now, thanks for watching and enjoy the rest of your day.